built-in controls in C# were never meant to be all we needed. Microsoft created the language and some basic controls to use it, but the rest is up to us. This allows us the most flexibility, but it also means we have a lot of work to do. However, there is another option. Third-party control libraries fill in the gaps and allow us to move forward quickly. In this video, we're going to be looking at the Syncfusion controls. Now, there are a couple of reasons why we're looking at Syncfusion. First, they offer a great library with a wide range of features and options. I have recommended their tools for years when clients had specific needs. Second, Syncfusion is an excellent friend to the community. They offer a number of training resources for free, as well as the excellent Metro Studio. We have used Metro Studio multiple times in the past on this channel to create free, high-quality icons for demo applications. They also offer their entire suite of tools for free to anyone who qualifies for Visual Studio 2022 Community Edition. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, speaking of being a great friend of the community, a few months ago, Syncfusion came to me and asked to be a sponsor of some of my content. As you probably know by now, I don't do traditional sponsorships. Instead, I like to partner with a brand to bring a benefit to the community, not just to the brand. I had already been looking for an excuse to do this coverage of Syncfusion, since they offer so much to the community. So this week, I'll be releasing multiple videos showing you how to use the Syncfusion tools to make powerful applications. To be clear, while Syncfusion is sponsoring these are videos I wanted to create. I will show you how to use their tools to create documents in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and PDF. I'll be showing you how to generate reports on the web, how to build a Kanban board with drag and drop, how to create powerful data grids with sorting, filtering, and exporting capabilities, and more. But I'll also be showing you the pitfalls to avoid, as well as my honest thoughts on the various parts of Syncfusion. One final note with this partnership, one of the things I like to do with partnership money is to give part of it away. We're working internally to develop a more formal system for how to track and report on this system. But I'm not going to wait for the system to give money away. So as a result of this partnership, we'll be using over $7,000 to sponsor developer groups, conferences, and other community events. Now, in the description, you're going to find a link to Syncfusion. I'd appreciate it if you would use that link to follow along or later to get the tools. That is your way to tell Syncfusion thank you for being such a good friend of the community. It also lets them know they should continue doing that and continue benefiting the community. All right, let's look at Syncfusion. Now we're going to start right away with pricing because that's always the first thing you should look at. Because if something's outside of your price range, you can't afford it, there's no use looking at it really. So let's start with pricing and understand how Syncfusion operates, what the costs are, and then what it will be depending on your position. So let's go right to pricing. And here you'll notice some what could be scary numbers. Now I'm in the US, so $2,500 for the first year, $900 for the second year, and every year after that. And that gets me all the tools. Now that's for everything. That's the Enterprise Edition. You could buy individual platforms. Notice that down here, if you want just read and write to the Office type documents, that's $1,000 per year, $445 after that. Now you may say, man, that sounds like a lot of money. It really isn't for what you're getting. And that's the thing is, if you're using this to create some kind of application for a customer or a client, they're making money off it, you're making money off it, you should pay for the tools. Often people get caught up in the idea of, well, there's free tools out there. And yes, there can be free tools out there. However, I want you to think about how those tools will be sustained long term. Syncfusion has been around for a very long time. And the reason they have is because they can afford to pay for their staff. So having this cost, yes, it does take away from your profits, but at the same time, it helps you build more profits. So I definitely think it's worth it. Again, this is for a single developer for an entire year. Now, don't get scared off though, because you may be thinking, I can't afford $2,500. Well, this is where we have the idea of the community license. The community license, you get the entire product line for free. That's a $12,000 value. You may say, well, how are they doing this? What they've done is they looked at what Microsoft did. If you go to visualstudio.com, you can get the Visual Studio 2022, the latest edition, Community Edition, for free, as long as you fit within a certain set of criteria. What are those criteria? The same criteria as what Syncfusion is doing, which is it's for companies and individuals that make less than $1 million a year in annual gross revenue, and they have 5 or fewer developers. So for the most part, if you're an individual, you probably qualify for this. If you are working for a company, but you're doing this on the side just for yourself, that's individual. If you're working for a company and doing it for the company, but the company makes less than $1 million a year, that still qualifies for the free version. And you may say, well, is this free version limited in some way? And the answer is no, it's not. You can use this commercially. So you have unlimited access, unlimited license. It will not expire. You will get support and updates. So all of this for free as long as you fit inside those qualifications. Now, if you don't fit inside those qualifications, then you're making money in some way off of your software. Whether that is the company is benefiting, or the company is selling your software, or the company is just using your software to do their job. Whatever the case may be, they're benefiting. So you should benefit Syncfusion in response, which means you're over here on the license side of it. There's also unlimited licenses as well, if you need a project license or a global license and so on. But for most people, this is where they'll land if they don't qualify for the free community license. So if you do qualify for the free community license, go ahead and claim your license right now. So that's pricing. Now let's talk about the product itself. So now we know if we can afford it, if you want to use it, if you're capable of using it. Let's move on to what is this product. So there's a few different ways to explore it. I'm going to start with just this drop down here of products. And this gives you a good idea of what all they support. They support the web, not just with C#, notice Blazor and ASP.NET Core, ASP.NET MVC, that's the old MVC, and web forms, the old web forms. But they also support Flutter, JavaScript, Angular, React, Vue, and even jQuery. So there's a lot of web support with these tools. But there's more. There's also mobile support for .NET MAUI, which is in preview, but so is .NET MAUI, so that's kind of understandable. There's also Flutter, Xamarin if you're still using Xamarin, UWP if you're still using UWP, and also JavaScript. There's also desktop support, WinForms, WPF, WinUI, again, .NET MAUI, Flutter, Xamarin, and UWP. So basically, if you're using C#, you're covered. If you're not using C#, you're probably still covered using Flutter, JavaScript, one of the front-end frameworks, and so on. But there's also a reporting platform, which we're going to see in actually 2 different videos. And there's document processing with different file formats, Excel format, PDF, Word, and PowerPoint. I've done videos before on creating Excel files using C#. We're going to see how to do it again, this time using the Syncfusion tools. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on here. One of the ways to see, is this for me? Is it something that I want to do? Is to view the demo. So you can view the demo here, or on the main page, there's View Demo. And this brings us to a number of different options. If we're on the web, that's an easy demo because we can see a website that actually uses their controls. If you're looking for mobile or desktop, it's not as easy because of the fact that you can't show a desktop app really on the web. You can show some screenshots and stuff, but that's probably about it. However, the nice thing here is, notice even in the, let's say WPF, you want to do WPF.NET Core. Well, there's this little icon here that is the GitHub link to samples. If you were to open that up, here are the samples. Notice how many these folders all represent a different sample of the different controls. And it's again for .NET Framework 4.5, 4.7, then .NET 5.0 and .NET 6. So even the latest version of .NET, there are samples in here showing you how to use each control. That's really, really helpful. If you need something, you download it, you try it out, and then you go from there. So if you were looking at how to do a data grid, and you said, well, I want to know how to do it in .NET 6, well, you can open up the .NET 6 solution, and it will use these controls and show you how to work with their code. So lots of great examples, even if you can't use it online, but let's go online. And we're going to choose Blazor. That's a pretty popular front-end framework for new web development. So let's go to View Demo. And in here, we can see a number of different options. Let's look at the data grid first. This is one that people often want to see, is show me data on the web. Now, I do have some opinions here. And so let's talk through those opinions before we get too enamored. First of all, I'm not a huge fan of putting 1,000 rows on a website. You can do it, obviously. There's 1,000 rows. This is a website, so it's working. But I'm not a huge fan of that because of the fact that the web is not a desktop application. We need to treat it differently. Also, I'm not reading through all of this data. So therefore, why are you taking the time to transmit this across the internet for me to ignore? You really should show me just the stuff that I need to see. And so I'm not a huge fan of this, but at the same time, if you want to do this, you can do this. Notice that not only do I see all this data, there's nice, cool look and feel to it. We can also sort. So for example, status. Click on there, there's all the active statuses. I can sort the other way, and now they're inactive statuses. Trustworthiness, ratings. I guess I can't sort by rating. Okay. Location. I can also say, you know what? I want to see everybody in a certain location. See us filtered to the right of the text. I say the right because this one tripped me up right here. Employee name. This is a filter for employee name. When I was thinking it was a designation since it's closer. So make sure that you filter on the right one. So it's the one to the right. But location, I could uncheck all and come down here and say just people in the UK. And hit filter. There's just UK people. And now let's filter them by, well, I'm filtered by designation right now. So in the third click actually clears it. Let's filter some more and only by CFOs. And there we go. So now we see just the CFOs, which the list doesn't scroll anymore because that's all there are. And we can continue to filter this out and say, let's only filter by people that start with K. Not Catherine, just K. The autocomplete is wanting to change that. But there are the CFOs in the UK that start with the letter K. All right. And we can review that data. So that is the data grid. And there's lots more that you can do this, but this example shows you the power of what you can do with the data grid. Now, I also want to take another pause here to talk about demos, because it's often easy to look at a demo and get super excited and say, this is exactly what I want my app to do, or mostly what I want my app to do. And so therefore, I think this is perfect. Don't forget that a demo's purpose is not just to show you that it works. A demo's purpose is to sell you on the idea that you need it. So it's going to be designed to look very pretty. It's going to be designed to work very, very slick. It's going to be designed to be basically perfect. When you put this in your application, it's not going to look quite as perfect or work quite as well because you have to add things like the colors and the different options here. When you put just raw data in here, it's going to look boring because you don't have the little icons for their employee name. You don't have the little location dot thing for the location. You don't have the colors for status, active and inactive, and so on. So just be careful to look past the flashiness of a demo to the actual functionality and say, is that the functionality that I want? So I just want to point that out as we walk through the demos, that demos are designed to be sales tools. Be careful you don't get sucked in too early. Now, again, I am saying that this demo is representative of what it does. And I do think that Syncfusion tools are great tools. But I do want you to make sure you come in with your eyes open, not thinking that everything's perfect. Okay? So another benefit of these demos is there is this source tab here. And this shows you what the source code is for the page you just saw. Now, I'm going to say something here. You need to think through using this. Try them out. Don't just assume, oh, there's source code, I can just copy and paste and it will work. That's not going to be the case. The reason why it's not the case is because these demos are designed to work inside this demo environment. Even notice right here, if we zoom in a little bit, we'll see that inherits from sample-based component. You're not going to have a sample-based component. Okay, so there is some inheritance going on here that you don't have. This also does not show you the entirety of the code you need to have. For example, it's not showing you which NuGet packages to add. It's not showing you which JavaScript libraries to add. It's not showing you a lot of things. So just be careful of that. The other thing that I'm not a huge fan of, and this one doesn't do it, but some of them will include a lot of CSS on the page. I kind of wish that the defaults made the CSS without needing to have additional CSS we add on the page. That's my personal preference. Yes, if you want to style it more, then you should add your own CSS, but I'm not a huge fan of needing to add even more CSS for just the defaults. All right, and this is showing sample data, so just note that it is generating some sample data here. You'd have to generate your own sample data or generate your actually real data if you want real data there. But besides that, let's reset this. Besides that, this is a nice option to have to be able to look at the source code here and say, hey, how do they do that one feature? Page settings, size of 40. How do they do that? And things of that nature. So there are a lot of benefits of seeing the source code here. Just note it's not the complete source code. But that's where it's nice to have those GitHub links to the actual repositories where the full source lives for these demos. That way you can look at the source code and see everything about how it works, not just a part of how it works. Okay, so that's just one component. Let's go back to all components here. And notice there's a lot of components here. And we're going to look at quite a few components for Blazor in an upcoming video. But I just want to point out how to use this for the future. Okay, so you already know that you can go to, let's go to a Smith chart. There's a Smith chart. Cool, I guess. But if that's what you want to see, then you can go to the source code and see how you add that to the page. All right, there's those inline styles that I'm not a huge fan of. Also, you can see the code for it. You can see how it's set up, and then you kind of have a better understanding of how it works. So the demo gives you some of the look, which again, you'll have to make some changes yourself to make it look right for your environment. It gives you some code to show you how to tweak this and put this on a page, even though again, you'll have to know which libraries and NuGet packages to add. But again, that's where the full source code, notice exploring GitHub, that's very helpful because you can see that. And then you can just go through and say, these are the things I want to look at. The benefit of using these controls is that they do work together and they do work in a similar manner. So when you put one in, it's pretty easy to add another that works in conjunction with it. All right. So I'm not a huge fan of having tons of dependencies. Having a dependency on the Syncfusion system, even though they've broken apart into multiple NuGet packages, having a dependency on Syncfusion allows us to have essentially one dependency. Now, yes, again, multiple NuGet packages, but it's one company supporting one product. So we can use a bunch of different things in here and not feel like we're adding a dependency every single time. Instead, we're adding one dependency on the Syncfusion company supporting their product. That's pretty much it. So there's some good stuff there. All right, so there's demos for Blazor, for Flutter, for ASP.NET Core, old school ASP.NET, for MVC and web forms. There's also JavaScript. The front-end frameworks, they look pretty much the same because the controls in the end operate pretty much the same way, even though they have different ways of hooking them up, obviously, because of JavaScript versus C#. Note that the ASP.NET Core library actually uses the JavaScript framework for putting in the controls. So the ASP.NET Core uses JavaScript to render these controls, whereas Blazor uses actual components that I don't think they're JavaScript behind the scenes, but it definitely doesn't say JavaScript, and we're not linking JavaScript in the same way. So a little bit different there, but that's how these controls work. That's how the demos work, and that's how you can check out and see what's going on. Now, again, if you say, hey, I'm interested in Blazor, so go to Products Blazor, you can see the demos, but then also down here, it's going to walk you through some of the more popular controls, how they might look, how they might work, and so on. You keep coming down, and you'll see Browse Code in GitHub. Again, very, very helpful for seeing there's the expense tracker, and it's done in .NET 5 as well as .NET Core 3.1. So you can see how that works. And you can see more video tutorials, blogs, and case studies using Syncfusion. Some questions about that, some more resources about it, documentation. The documentation can be very helpful. So if you're struggling with how to implement something, the documentation can really help you. So let's say you want to put a badge on your site. You can go to Get Started, and it's going to walk you through, here's what to put where, and so on. Now, there is a lot of documentation for Syncfusion. And there's a lot of stuff that Syncfusion does. But I do want to, again, caution you on something, and that is your expectations. Don't expect that the documentation will be perfect because of the fact there is so much documentation. So for instance, there may be a reference. I came across a reference the other night. I'm going to submit it to Syncfusion for fixing. Actually, you can go ahead and hit edit and submit a change. But it referenced the wrong file because the files have changed in .NET 6. But notice even down here, .NET 6, open this, versus .NET 5 and .NET Core 3.x, go here. Well, that's updated for .NET 6. That's updated as of this past year. So that's a pretty current thing. But not every piece of documentation can be updated this way just because of how much documentation there is. So if you see something, come up here, suggest a feature or suggest an edit. So you come up here and say edit and say, these are the changes I think need to be in this document. You can help them out. Again, you can help as a community member, help the community and help them who are helping the community by making changes to their documentation or making a suggestion for the documentation. So just note that's the documentation. There's lots of documentation. Again, for all, this is just for Blazor. So all these controls over here are all just for Blazor. How to install it, how to upgrade it, VS Code integration, Visual Studio integration, and more. So lots of great stuff in here that, that you can review and help you on your journey of using these controls. Now, you can also ask for help. So you can find the answer in FAQs or ask support. There is also this chat bubble here that will connect you with Syncfusion chat if you need more help. Now, one of the things we haven't talked about at all, really, we're going to cover in future videos is there's also, let's go back to the very top here, go to products. There's also a reporting platform. And that's a little bit different because of the fact that it's actually bold reports. And so it still comes with your free license if you have a free license. And reporting allows us to create reports and put reports inside of, using a report viewer, inside of WPF apps, inside of other desktop apps, inside of mobile apps, and inside of web apps. And we'll see how to do that in a future video this week. So that is Syncfusion in a nutshell. But before we're done, we're not done yet, because we've talked about the Syncfusion controls. We've talked about basically all these things and how you get all of these for free if you can qualify for that free licensing. And if not, the enterprise licensing covers all of these controls. But again, there's more, because there's a section called free products. Doesn't matter who you are, these free products apply. So right now, the Xamarin UI kit is free. But two I want to point out are Metro Studio. Let's go here. Metro Studio is great. In fact, let me bring up Metro Studio on my computer. I'm currently using it because the fact that it provides all these icons for free. So if you're interested in a certain type of icon, let's say people, and you say, hey, I kind of like this icon right here, you click on it, and oops, I rotated it. Look at that. Notice how easy that was? I can say, well, I want the background color to be, let's go with a blue. This is not great, but sure. And a white or a gray for the person. And I can make the padding smaller or bigger. I can make it into a circle. I can make it into a circle with no background. I can make it into a backgroundless icon, and so on. And then you can export it. And you export it and you can give it a number of different, it could be a GIF, it could be a JPEG, it could be a PNG, a bitmap, icon file, a TIFF, and a SVG, and so on. So lots of great stuff there. Lots of stuff you can do with this. So this Icon Studio, completely free. So you just need to register for it, and that's it. And then you can use it pretty much forever. You can create your own projects with multiple icons. I have done this before in the past with other videos on YouTube, but it's worth pointing out if you are, especially if you're doing demo applications, these are great to make your demo application actually look professional. But then if you're doing real applications and you need real icons, this is still a great tool for doing so, whether it's the application icon itself or whether it's icons inside the application. There's some great stuff in here. So again, you can find just about anything. There's thousands of icons in here for you to, first of all, start from and then modify. So the Olympic rings, great. You want to change their color, great. So there you go. So lots of great stuff you can do with this package. This is completely free. So that's the Syncfusion Metro Studio. I highly recommend this be on your computer. It's a great tool to use. But then also there is ebooks. You may say, well, I'm not a huge reader. I want to see something instead. That's fine. But these can be a great resource when you need to refer back to something and know what it's doing and why. And it's not just one or two ebooks. If you notice, they have over 200 ebooks available. Again, for free. And there's 2 new ebooks per month. So lots of great stuff in here. If you're looking for something, you can probably find it. So if you're looking for, how do I use Flutter? Well, there you go. Or what are Azure durable functions? There you go. And so some great stuff in here. There's great resources to really just add to your library of ways to find out information about a certain topic. So check those out as well. Again, those are completely free. So even if you don't qualify for the free everything package, you definitely still qualify for the free ebooks and free Metro Studio. This is one of the reasons why I love Syncfusion. They give back to the community in ways that don't necessarily have a return on investment. This is not about getting a return on investment as much as it is saying, we're here to be a part of this community. Now, don't get me wrong, Syncfusion still is looking to make money, and this does draw people back to their content. But really, this is just free to use. So check it out. We're going to learn more about Syncfusion. We're going to use Syncfusion with Blazor. We're going to use Syncfusion for reporting and so on in the coming videos. But check it out. Use that link down in the description. Again, I appreciate if you do that. Let Syncfusion know that, yes, you value the free content they give to the community, and that's the way I do that. Also, leave some comments about what you're interested in seeing from Syncfusion controls. I'd be interested in knowing what is it that most excites you. As always, thanks for watching, and I am Tim Corey.